Okay, so here we have an absolute value inequality with a greater than sign. So again, the first thing that I always need to pay attention to when I'm looking at absolute value with inequalities is I need to pay attention to the sign. So I think of greater, and I'm going to use some bad spelling, as a greater than problem. So I know this is an OR problem, which means it's a union, so my solution can be solutions to either inequalities, which means I'm going to set this up as a compound inequality. So I need to write two inequalities down. So I'm going, for my first inequality, I'm just going to drop the absolute value bars and keep my greater than sign. Okay, for the second inequality, okay, again, I drop the absolute value bars, but instead of writing another greater than, I need to flip my sign, so it's going to go from greater than to less than, and then I'm going to take the opposite value. So if this is a positive 4, my new number is going to be a negative 4. So again, the first inequality is the exact problem you start out with after dropping the absolute value bars. And the second inequality, you flip the sign and take the negative, I'm going to call this the C value, the negative value of the number. So now we just go ahead and solve this like we would any other compound inequality with ORs. We solve them separately. So 2x is greater than 1, divide by 2. My x is going to be greater than 1/2, or 2x is less than -7. So x is less than -7/2. Okay, so there's my answer. I can graph it on a number line. You could put the decimal or the fraction versions on the number line. Open circle, x is greater than 1/2 and less than -7/2. Okay, so that's my solution. If I wanted to write this answer in set builder notation, I use my braces. Okay, and I'm using the variable x, so x such that, the first part of my answer, and actually I'm going to write this one first since this number is smaller. X is less than -7/2. Instead of using the word or, I'm going to use my union symbol. X is greater than 1/2. If I wanted to write this in interval notation, with interval notation I always read from left to right. So because my arrow is continuing all the way to the left, that means that's -infinity, which I always use parentheses. Okay, I'm going to stop at -7/2. It's an open circle, so that's parentheses. And then comma, I restart up again at 1/2. Again, open circle is going to be parentheses. And then I'm continuing on all the way to the right, which is +infinity. So if you can solve compound inequalities, you can solve absolute value inequalities.